Jean-Baptiste Say. So Jean-Baptiste Say was French. He was known as the French Adam Smith, and he grew up in a time period in France where there was a lot of political turmoil. And he argued for a different economic system. So he lived in France during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte. And he argued for a laissez-faire system. And so he published his signature work called A Treaties on Political Economy of the Production, Distribution, and Consumption of Wealth in 1803 is when it was published. And again, he argued for this laissez-faire policy, similar to what Adam Smith argued. And these were in direct contradictions to Napoleon. And so he was on the tribunat of Napoleon, a leadership group there, and he was banned from that. His book was banned as a result. But his book was very influential, and he was very influential in terms of his contributions and what he argued. So he argued for four main contributions, right? And we're going to talk about each of these in turn. The first was testing theories with facts and observations. Even in Adam Smith, when we talk about the example of the pin factory, that's an observation. And what Jean-Baptiste Say, JB Say, really encouraged was to test with theories. Let's formulate theories about why things work. And these theories are based on assumptions. We can argue those assumptions, but once we show those assumptions, then the proofs or the theories will show and try to predict human behavior. And he was very big in arguing that. Many of his contemporaries would just make assertions and claim these to be true. And a lot of their theories, or a lot of their work was based off that, which didn't necessarily make them true. The second thing that was really important in his contributions was what's called subjective utility theory. And it's trying to ask the question is, what is the value of a good? So the competition this time was David Ricardo. And David Ricardo came up to say the value of a good is the time it took to produce that good. So if something took longer to produce, that would be more valuable. But J.B. Say disagreed with that. He argued that the value of a good depends upon how much utility or usefulness or happiness that it provides the consumer. And so he would argue that the reason a pearl is so much more valuable isn't because it takes longer to make, but because it provides more utility to the individual. And that utility is subjective. Each individual has different things that make them happy. And so it's really the subjective utility theory and not a universal value system for goods. The third thing he talked about was the vital role of the entrepreneur. Because the entrepreneur, there's an argument this time, especially with Karl Marx, that there's this key separation between the capitalist and the worker or the laborer. And that's going to lead to issues, that's going to lead to revolution, is what Marx argued. But what J.B. Say argued is it need not be, because this entrepreneur plays a very important role. The entrepreneur is both the capitalist and the laborer. He or she is one and the same. And so they take the risks, and therefore they should be able to get the gains from those risks. But to show this distinction of the importance of the entrepreneur and to take into account the entrepreneur into economic systems. And the last thing is Say's law of markets. What Say argued is that if you focus on the production of a specific good, that's going to have benefits to other markets. And so if you focus on producing cotton, then all that cotton you produce, the person producing that cotton has now money, they can buy other things. And it's going to stimulate and improve the economy and improve other businesses. And so Say's law of the market says that we should focus on production, because through focusing on production, it's going to benefit that business, but then indirectly it's going to benefit many other businesses around. And those are the four contributions that we credit to J.B. Say.